YouTube? It's Jeff Perry with Must Be Nice Investments, and today we're going to break down Joe Biden's first week in office and specifically talk about the eviction moratorium that was extended through March 31st, 2021, what you can do to protect yourself as a landlord and insulate yourself from this type of legislation. Let's get going. All right, guys, so Biden's first week in office, he did sign some executive orders. We had things like the cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline project from Alberta down to, Ohio, around there, something like that. Of course, a lot of legislation around COVID-19. But as it relates to you as a landlord or as a real estate investor, one of the big things is the eviction moratorium was yet again extended into March 31st, 2021. And just to kind of go over what that looks like at a high level, this order will protect residential tenants who, one, have used their best efforts to obtain government assistance for housing, number two, are unable to pay their full rent due to a substantial loss or income, three, are making the best effort to make timely partial payments for rent, and number four, would become homeless or have to move into a shared living setting if they were to be evicted. Okay, guys. In addition to these requirements, there are a couple more. Financial criteria must apply in order to qualify for that protection. The individual has to expect to earn no more than $99,000 this year or last year, I'm assuming, or $198,000 if filing a joint tax return in 2020. So number two is not have been required to report any income to the IRS in 2019 or have received an economic impact payment, stimulus checks pursuant to Section 2201 of the CARES Act. So let's just jump in real quick and take a look at how this is affecting one landlord I saw this week on the news.
For help. They say that the state law is draining them in the last years of their life. CBS 2's Natalie Dudridge reports.
In December 2018, 94-year-old Ignatius Bill Pantano rented out his condo on Benson Avenue in Brooklyn, and the problems with his tenant started immediately.
I see that you're having difficulty paying rent. You could stay a month free and then leave. And he says, I refuse to go.
Pantano filed eviction paperwork, but it took months to make its way through the courts. Finally, an eviction date was set for April 2020, but in March, the coronavirus shut down the city and evictions were put on hold. Now Pantano says he's out $50,000, the income he desperately needs to live.
I'm a pretty healthy guy, and I ended up in a hospital because of this.
In Harlem, another stressful housing dispute for 88-year-old David Housen. In the 1960s, he saved up to buy this 10-unit building on West 129th Street that his daughter Jessica now manages due to his worsening Alzheimer's. Issues with some tenants not paying rent began before the pandemic, but now they can't be evicted due to the moratorium.
We have to unload the property because we're really destitute. We really have nothing now.
At Governor Cuomo's daily briefing, we asked him about the thousands of evictions unrelated to COVID that have been paused.
These are desperate landlords. They are wondering what they can do.
Well, Natalie, the law is the law. You can't claim COVID hardship if you weren't paying rent before COVID.
But attorneys we spoke with say there's a massive gap between what's being said and what's actually happening.
There it is, guys. Landlords are getting hurt out there, guys. They're having a horrible time, some of them with this. And really, when you start to look in the news, when everything you search about the eviction moratorium, it's very, very little where they talk about, hey, how the landlord is impacted. You know, they're talking about maybe going even to some rental relief. Let's take a look at a couple articles here real quick. Take a look here online. Let's just Google eviction moratorium and see what pops up in the news, guys. So we got Biden's executive action to extend eviction moratorium is a band-aid on the rental crisis. Obviously, Biden extends the eviction moratorium. Biden extends eviction and foreclosure moratoriums. When we get stimulus, oh my God, when we get that money, there's a federal plan to combat COVID. Here's what it means for Florida. Eviction moratorium extends, helps renters. Courts hope to avoid surge in landlord-tenant evictions. Biden now to handle the eviction notice, blah, 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 blah. So let's just take a look. If we Google eviction moratorium for landlords, see what comes up in the news. Nothing on the top. Scroll down here. Like same thing for renters. Biden extends stimulus plan would make a big difference. Let's see. Big difference for renters. The advocates stress the needs for additional help. Okay, Biden to extend CDC moratorium on evictions and foreclosure. Nothing for landlords, guys. Let's take back and take a look at this real quick for renters. Biden's extension make a big difference. Extended eviction foreclosure moratoriums. Will Biden administration be able to stop evictions of tenants hurt by COVID? You know, basically, how are we going to get these guys to be able to stay in their houses, or maybe give them a voucher that they can use, maybe to pay rent, maybe not, who knows. Here's an interesting article from Forbes. Lisa Rowan, Biden signs executive order to extend eviction moratorium. Is more rent relief next? So let's kind of hit the highlights here. Biden's aid plan for renters. Okay, renters. Rent relief slow to arrive for worried renters. Okay, sorry guys. What help have renters received so far? Nothing in here about landlord or taking this and saying, hey, let's do a voucher direct to landlords, etc. Let's set up programs to help these guys, one, pay their rent because they've fallen on hard times, but two, to make sure that the renter or the landlord, sorry, gets their money. So let me give you a couple tips, guys, and we'll go over these tips here in a second. 2 tips that you can do to help you insulate yourself from this crisis. It's really all we can do at this point. So what can you do to protect yourself, guys? So one thing, if you're bringing in new tenants, the first thing you can do is have a very vigorous screening process, guys. Get tenants that have something to lose. They have a good credit score. They maintain a credit score. They do not want any derogatory marks for any reason. They're going to pay you instead of paying for other things, guys. So screen your tenants as well as you can. The second thing I would suggest is consider going month to month, even on new rental contracts, but especially if you have a holdover, someone whose lease is expiring, go month to month, because you can evict for holdover, okay? As long as you go through the proper paperwork as outlined in your leases, you give a 30-day notice, 60-day notice, whatever it may be, you can evict for holdover. And if you go month to month on some of these contracts, charge a little bit higher rent, guys. Get a little bit more insurance there for you. And then if they do a holdover, you can evict for that. It has nothing to do with COVID-19 or they don't have a lease that they can lean on. So, guys, hope you enjoyed the video today. Sorry, not all doom and gloom. It's really not that bad, hopefully, out there, and we will get this fixed soon. But as a tenant, or sorry, as a landlord, we need to know how we can protect ourselves or insulate ourselves from this pandemic and to protect those cash flows that a lot of us desperately need. If you liked the video today, guys, please like that video. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back soon.